Hi guys, welcome to Abjada. In this one, I'm going to show you some of the bindings that we use in Svelte. So let's start with the first one, which is text binding. So we'll have input, and by default, inputs are a type of input is usually text, but we can mention it explicitly here, and it can have a value, something, and it ends. So that's an input. But if I want to bind this to its value to a variable, I would need a script tag here, and I need something like let some variable input value or something. You can call this anything. Um, you don't need to initialize it to anything. Now here, if I want to bind whatever value I enter to this variable, I can have something like bind value, and then I can have flower brackets with input value here. So if I want to show that, so I can have a h1 tag here, or maybe have it at the top, and we can have input value to be shown here, and now whatever I enter, that comes up there. Now if input value is just called value, in that case we can have this, and since these are similar, whatever value we are binding is equal to the variable we are using, we can just remove that. Bind value would still work. Fine, that's one. Now if you look at the type, I'll have a declaration of reactive declaration to show the type, maybe what kind of data it is. So if you look at the value, I'm guessing it's shown here, yeah, undefined. Right now it is undefined. If I start typing, it shows you string. So whatever I'm entering is actually string. Now if I want it to be a number, I can just change the type to number, and whatever I enter, I cannot enter alphabets, I have to enter number, and it shows number. That's how we can make it a numerical. And we can have a checkbox. It's kind of different than value. So if I type here, it doesn't really show the value, because you have to bind checked to value. Only then it will show. Right now there is nothing in value. I can click on it, it shows true, and it's showing that it's boolean. Okay, and if I uncheck, it's false, right? So that's checkbox. Now I can have radio, and for radio, we'll bind value. Single radio is not usually used. Radios are always used in groups. Now that is why we have a group binding, but I'll show you the normal one. So here I'll type something like car. I'll have different mode of transportation. Train, and then another label aeroplane. Now if I can actually select all of them, so that shouldn't be the case. This happens because we don't have a name here. If I use the same name for all of them, something like auto, and now I can only select one of them, and we see that the value isn't coming up here. That is because I have to make this a group. Instead of value, I should have group, and if I select something, that should come there, and why it isn't coming? Yeah, I should have value also here for individual input, radio input. I can have something like car, I can have train for this, I can have aeroplane for this, right? So when I select, those values will show up. So bind group is something you have to remember. Another thing that we use is checkbox multiple, or even for checkbox. Yeah, when I changed it to checkbox, you see an error that property of index of undefined. Usually index of is for an array. So here the value is not an array, so that is why the error is coming. So if I change it to an array, so it sorts itself out and becomes checkbox. So I can select multiple of them and they will show up as usual, and there is a comma in between. That is good. That happens automatically, you don't have to do anything. So that's how group checkboxes work. Same thing, you use bind group to value, and you should have individual value in them, and you can select. You can put these through loops. If you have array of objects, you can loop through that. And another thing is select, which is an interesting input. Select will usually have options, multiple of them. So let's have 3. I'll have the same things here: car, train, aeroplane. So as usual, that should have a value as well. I'll have particular values. Same thing. What? Okay. Now select can we can bind this to value. Bind value equals to value. So as I said, if they are same, we don't really need it. I can just remove that. Now if I select something, that should show. Right now in here we can have multiple of them. So there is something called multiple in select, where you can select multiple things. You can also click and drag. Yeah, you can use shift. Yeah, anyway, so that works. So this is it, guys. I think I covered most of them. So there are other bindings as well. I'll discuss them in the next video. Until then, bye bye.